Greetings, WordPressers. In today's show, WordPress Backup plugins. There's a new kid on the block, and it's pretty amazing. Jakson here, welcome to the channel. This is, of course, where I share my tips, my tricks, those tutorials all about WordPress. And if you like a bit of WordPress, then I do encourage you to subscribe if you're new here. Check out the description below, has all the info and links and all that jazz about what we're going to be talking about in today's session. So, what's it about? It's about this new backup plugin. Well, it's about 5 or 6 months old, called Wpvivid, and it's pretty damn fine. The guys over there approached me and said, would I like to do a sponsored video for them? I said yes, but only if I like it and I use it and can endorse it. I like it, I use it, and I totally endorse it. This thing is pretty damn fine, and it's completely free. The stuff it does is what you'd normally find in the pro versions of a lot of the free backup plugins that are on the repo. It's got all your standard stuff with respect to manual backups. You can do scheduled backups. You can take those backups and put them on all the regular remote storage services like Dropbox and Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive, etc., etc., etc. Does all of that for free. Plus, it's got an extra bonus feature, which is it can actually migrate your website from one place to another. It's now replaced my old go-to backup plugin and my old go-to migration plugin. It's simply brilliant. So in today's show, a full review and tutorial for the quite amazing Wpvivid. All right, let's take a look at this backup, restore, migration, scheduling beast of a plugin, Wpvivid. I've got a demo site here that we're going to use as our testing environment. If we go to our backend, we're going to go to our plugins and add a new one, and it's going to be the Wpvivid plugin. There it is. We're going to install now and activate it, and we will end up on the Wpvivid backup plugin dashboard. So let's have a little review of what we've got here. This is the main backup and restore tab, and this is where we can immediately take a backup of our site. You've got what type of backup it's going to be, i.e. it could be the database and the files, just the files, or the database only. I'm going to show you how quickly it is to do that. You just click on, I'm just going to take the database backup. I'm going to click backup now. And literally in just a few seconds, we now have got a backup of our site. Well, just the database, as it were. And if we scroll down, we can actually see that we have got a database backup, which we could restore. There's some information here. You can lock the backup so it can't be deleted other than by you manually. That's in respect to a schedule overwriting old backups. You've got the type, which is manual or scheduled. We'll talk about the scheduling in just a mo. You can look at the log file for that, and you can use that to send to Wpvivid support if you need to. Again, more info on that coming up. The storage that was used for the backup and was local, and we'll talk about the remote storage option in just a few mins. You can download this file, so if you wanted to manually take a copy for safety, or you wanted to use it for migration, again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And you can, of course, use the restore button. Well, of course, there's nothing to restore at the moment. We're going to go and trash our website. So here's our website. We've got the Amalia startup site here. And I'm just going to go back to the admin and go to our pages. And I'm going to trash our website by sticking the homepage in the bin. So if we go back to our front end and give that a refresh, we will see we've got a completely wrecked site. Okay, so let's get back to the Wpvivid dashboard and have it save our life. Here we go with the restore button. You simply click restore, hit that restore button, get the confirmation, okay that, and in literally a few seconds, you get the confirmation notice, okay that, and there will be another notice at the top saying that the restore completed successfully. And let's go back to our friend and give that a refresh, and yes indeed, Wpvivid has saved your bacon. All right, so there's a basic example of a manual backup. We just took a database only, wrecked our site, and we're back up and running in just a few mins. The other great thing about this plugin is the scheduling. So with a single click, you can have daily, weekly, or other time frame backups running on your site, and you're kind of good to go. So if we click enable backups schedule, we can then choose what time period we want for those backups. Daily is pretty good if you're updating the site regularly. You can choose, again, is similar to the manual set up, what that backup should look like in the respect of what that backup will be backing up, database and files, WordPress files, or only the database, and where you want to save that to. Now, we're going to get onto remote storage in a second, but if we leave everything as it is with just the enable backup schedule ticked and we save our changes, that's it, we're done. We've now got a scheduled backup running daily forever. Fantastic stuff. Just one little note though, the actual schedule is triggered by a PHP background service that happens when someone visits your site. So if no one's visiting your sites, then you're not going to see any backups, but I'm sure they are. Okay, the next tab is auto migration. I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail a bit later on in this tutorial, but it's a killer feature. It really is. So we'll skip over auto migration and we'll go to remote storage. Now this really is where this free plugin comes into its own, because most backup plugins will give you some options on remote storage, but the majority of them will make you pay for them. And with Wpvivid, it's completely free, and it's got all the usual suspects: Google Drive, Dropbox, Amazon, MS OneDrive, FTP, even if that's your flavor. And you can set any of these up and get them to run when you do manual or a scheduled backup, which is even more amazing. So for this tutorial, I'm going to run with Dropbox. When you click that, you'll get asked to give it a name, and we're just going to call it Dropbox. And it shows you where within your Dropbox folder structure that will be stored. And of course, if it's a connected app like it is, then it will go into the apps folder, and within that it will be called the WP Backup Restore folder. There are options on the Pro feature to put those backups in specific folders. Not totally necessary, but useful if you're backing up lots of different sites to the same Dropbox. We'll leave the set as default remote storage as ticked. And now we've got to authenticate with Dropbox. This is basically connecting this website with our Dropbox site, and you simply click the button. Dropbox will open up, so you've got to be logged into your Dropbox account on the same web browser, and you simply click allow, and bingo, we now have remote storage set up. Now remote storage is an excellent choice, because if you can take your backup files and put them outside of your web server, if your web server melts, you're still in business. And you can see here now we are back to the main page, and our options on the where we want to save our backup to has the Dropbox icon highlighted now, because we've now got that connected. So let's take another database backup and we'll send it to our remote storage. We'll click backup now. And in lightning speed, it's actually backed up to Dropbox. And if you went and checked your Dropbox account now, then you would see it in there. And here's our backup list, and you can see that that is logged on that list and has the Dropbox icon as its storage destination. So now that we have our storage, a remote storage set up, we can actually go back to our schedule, and we can actually change that to send backups to remote storage, and we can choose, and our Dropbox is selected. And we save our changes, and now our scheduled backups are now going to go to our Dropbox. Now, of course, it's really dependent on the size of your remote storage service. If you've got a pro Dropbox account, you probably haven't got much problems. If you do it over FTP and you've got lots of server space, great. But of course, if you've got a big website and you're backing up every day, and it's a gig or a couple of gigs worth of data, then you're going to need the appropriate size storage. Okay, let's whiz back up and take a look at the other tabs. So we've got remote storage set up. Next one is settings. Now, pretty much you want to leave these as they are, but let's have a quick run through and get the overview. The only setting that I would always put up to the maximum is the amount of backups it retains. So you've got more of a history in the bank, as it were. You can choose whether it calculates the size of the file. I mean, to be fair, just leave all these ticked. If you want to remove the menu item, you can do that if you really want to, and the admin bar as well. And the last checkbox for that section is just to ensure that those files are all packaged up into a single file once the backup has run. The next section is where you can change the name of the local backup folder if you really fancy and you want to do that. And also, by default, the domain name will be prepended to the files that are created. You can also remove out-of-date backups with a function on the next section, and you can also ask the plugin to send you a report by email every time it runs. But it does require you having an SMTP plugin installed on your website, and I should probably do a video about that at some point. Some other housekeeping functionality in the next section where you can clear the caches and temporary files and logs and that type of thing. And you can also, if you do have a preferred setup, you can export those settings with the export button and import them into a new site or a new setup at your leisure. There is an advanced tab which does have a couple of interesting points to make, which are the first section, which is the enable optimization mode for shared hosting. Now this You shouldn't really need to tick this because you should have decent hosting, but if you are on cruddy hosting, then do tick that box if you are experiencing any problems. The next section is all about tweaking various file sizes and server settings to help you if you do have a few problems with the backups in relation to your hosting service. The first option is to archive with compression or without compression. This basically means it's going to zip it at the time when the backup runs, but it does take a little bit more server overhead. So if you're on shared hosting, and it will take a little bit longer. So I would advise keeping that on the default setting. Now, compress files every megabyte basically means you can control the amount of parts that are created for a single backup. Now, this is important if you've got a very big site and or your hosting service has limits on file sizes. The example here is that it could be that your hosting provider has a file size limit of 200 meg, and so therefore you would put that at 195 or something to make sure that never was an issue, and it basically splits out the backup, so when you then use it to restore, you're not going to get server errors and timeouts, and that's a good thing. All right, the next section is quite an interesting one. It's really if you've got a few monster files, so you wouldn't necessarily want to back them up manually or scheduled. You might want to exclude them. So say you've got a 2 gig media file, a video file or something that description, and you just don't want that backing up to your Dropbox every time it runs every day. So you just put in a megabyte and it will exclude files over that size. The next section is for the timeout. Now this is basically how long Wpvivid will keep going until it decides I've had enough. And if you've got a massive site, you might need to put that up. But again, it's sort of seasoned to taste in that respect. The next couple of settings are for the PHP memory limit. Now, again, this is to tell the server to allow a higher limit for the backup to run, and that's for the backup and the restoration. But to be fair, this might be ignored by the way that your hosting is set up. And the chunk size, again, is just the way that Wpvivid splits up the files, and there's no real reason to change that. The retrying option is fine to leave as it is. There's no real reason to change that. We don't need to save any changes because we haven't changed anything. And we'll just scroll back up and have a look at these other tabs. We've got the debug. That's essentially your server information. It's also quite a handy way of getting in touch with the support team at Wpvivid. If you do have an SMTP plugin on the site, then you can either email that debug information directly to them. If not, you can download the debug info and send it straight through on a regular email. The logs are essentially just the logs that are run at various times during backups and scheduling and that sort of thing. Now, the key tab is all to do with the auto migration side of things. I'm going to take you through that in just a few moments. And the main WP tab is where the settings reside if you want to manage the Wpvivid backup plugin from the main WP dashboard. Very useful if you're into that kind of thing. Okay, so we've had a good review of the backup, restore, the scheduling and the remote storage, and you can see just quite how easy this thing is to use, set up in minutes. One of the killer other sides to this plugin's story is that it can do migration of sites, and I'm a big fan of a particular plugin for that. But this has got two options for migrating a site from, say, a local host environment like Flywheel or like ServerPress, and an incredible auto migration option whereby you can install Wpvivid on your target site and push the entire site from your development site to the live site. Pretty wicked stuff. So let's take a look at the manual version of that. Now we're going to take a database and files backup. We're going to save it to our local storage. We'll back that up now. And this is obviously a much bigger file than the database backup that we took a few moments ago, but it's still pretty fast. It's completed now. If we scroll down, we can see that new backup there. So we're going to take that and we're going to put it onto a brand new website, a fresh install of WordPress. First thing we're going to do is download that to our desktop, click save, and that will download. And so now we're going to go to our target site. Now I've got another tab here with it, and this is a blank install of WordPress. If we go to the front end of that, you'll see that is just a completely blank site. Okay, brand new, fresh install. So we're going to go back to our dashboard for this new site, and we're going to go and add the WP WPvivid plugin again and install it and activate it once it has installed. And we see we get our now familiar dashboard. We're going to go to our backups and we're going to go click upload. Now you'll see the tab and you can just select or even just drag them in, and we'll just drag in our zip file and we get the option to click the upload, and that will start uploading to our site. So I'll let that run and I'll be right back once that's uploaded. And here we go, it's nearly uploaded and the upload has completed. We click the OK button and here we have the uploaded file. And it really is as simple as clicking this restore link and then confirming it. So just to be sure, nothing up my sleeves, here's our site, and we're going to click the restore button link and click the restore button, click the confirm, and Wpvivid will do its thing. And bam, it's done in literally a few minutes. Okay, the bigger the site, the longer the upload will take in the first place, but that is bonkers quick. Click OK. And of course, now we have to log in with the credentials of the old site, or rather the new site. You know what I mean. Okay, let's go grab those credentials and we'll just get those in there. Log in and we get the confirmation from the Wpvivid plugin, and if we head on over to our front end and give that a refresh, woo, we're done. Boom, we've got our migrated site and it is absolutely identical to our original. Super wicked. Right, now I was telling you earlier about this rather glorious auto migration function that this plugin has, and now this is quite a special bit of kit, so let's get into that. Although we do need to actually start with a blank site because we do actually have a completely migrated site, which you get me. So let me wipe this site using the amazing WP Reset plugin. And as soon as that's done, I can show you how to use the auto migration tool, which is wicked. 2 seconds. Okay, so I've reset the demo testing 2 site that we just migrated manually to. So this is, again, a completely fresh install of WordPress again. WP Reset. I'll do a video on that super soon. It's so wicked that for developing. Now, so if we go to our front end and give that a refresh, you will now see that we've got the old fresh vanilla install of WordPress. So going back to our dashboard, now what we need to do first is actually reactivate the Wpvivid backup plugin. That's the only thing that didn't come across with the migration. And on the target site, we need to go to the key tab, and on here we can generate a key. Now this is what we're going to use on the site that we're moving, and we just right click in there and press copy, and then we go jump back to our site that we want to migrate, and we go to our auto migration tab and we paste the site key in there and we save. We get the choice of what we want to move, and clearly if we're migrating a whole site it will be the database and the files, and we simply click clone then transfer. So it will take a copy of the site and it will just push it across to that new server. So let's go for it. Clone and transfer. We'll get the startup notice showing and the upload will begin. So this is all happening on the worldwide interwebs. One file is getting pushed to the other installation of WordPress. So I'm going to let that run, and when it's completed, I'll be right back. All right, so there we go. It's done its business. You'll see you've got the transfer success message up the top there, and it does tell us that we need to go to our destination, our target website, and give that backup list a refresh. So let's head back over there and to our backups, and we'll give that a refresh by clicking the scan uploaded, and there we see we have got our received backup. So in the same way that we did with the upload, you literally click the restore. So just to be sure, we've got our destination site there. It's still showing as the old fresh vanilla install. We'll go back to our admin on the destination site, the target site, and we will click restore link and click the restore button, confirm we're good to go on that, and it will do exactly the same process it did with the manual version of that. And in just a few moments our restoration is complete and our site is migrated. Let's go take a look at, we'll just close that OK down, and we'll go, of course we need to re-log in again, so we'll go get those credentials again and log in, and we get the OK message on the back end. And if we go to our front end with a refresh, we do indeed have our migrated site. It really is pretty good, this plugin by Wpvivid, and it gets my full endorsement. I think it's going to be the only way forward with backups and migration going forward. So there you go. It is the Wpvivid backup plugin with that amazing migration tool. It's now my go-to for backups and for migration. But tell me what you think. Give it a test run. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. Do you have a different favorite? What's your story with WordPress backup and migration? But until next time, I shall see you later.